I'm Rochelle Courtenay, and I'm super excited to bring you another bloody podcast. Today's episode, we are chatting to Stacey, whose connection with Share the Dignity began after experiencing period poverty during her mid-20s when she struggled to make ends meet, so stole toilet paper from work, for home and for her period. Years later, after seeing a Dignity Drive binge, she felt a deep appreciation for Share the Dignity's work and began donating in 2021. Stacey became a Share the Dignity volunteer and is now the volunteer engagement lead for South Australia. She supports new volunteers and remains passionate about helping those in need. And I am super stoked to be talking to you today about how that all unravelled.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. And, you know, for years, like, I've never really looked back at that part of my life and really, like, I've kind of, like, tried to forget that time because it's a bit traumatic.
Yeah, so I'm going to start our podcast with a would you rather card, which is how we start our podcasts every time. Would you rather use a tampon that is wrapped, that's been dropped from somebody on the floor of a bathroom, or free bleed into your undies?
If it looks clean, I'd probably use it off the floor, but maybe just, I don't know. It's hard. That's hard. It'd depend on how vulnerable you're feeling at that point in time, I think.
Yeah, and it's a question that we have in the Would You Rathers, because I actually met a woman at a Homeless Connect event on the Gold Coast, and it was 2016, and she'd come out with telling me the story about how she had found a wrapped tampon on the floor in a surf club, and she'd already had that tampon in for 24 hours because she couldn't afford to buy period products, and she was living in her car with her boys, and she knew that they could shower and barbecue on the beachfront and nobody thought anything, and they just slept in their cars. And when I was handing her packets of pads and tampons, it was at that point that I'd said to her, did you know you could ring 1-800-RESPECT and they'd be able to help you? And she said, what's that number? What do you mean? And it was then that I realised that not everybody knew the 1-800-RESPECT number as to get help. And at that point, I thought, how cool would it be if the 1-800-RESPECT was in the flip top of every tampon packet, so that women always knew whether you needed that service yourself or you had a friend that needed that service. So that's how that story on that, or that would you rather question actually got in there. So tell me, where did you grow up?
So I'm from South Australia. I grew up in Adelaide, lived there my whole life. So my mum and my dad split up when I was very young, and my mum met my stepdad when I was 4, and they're still together, and they had my brother when I was 6. I started working when I was very young. I used to do kids' parties at Hungry Jack's as a first job when I was in school.
Okay.
And then started in retail, and then I've worked in lots of pubs over my time until I had my daughter. So she's 5 now. The downtime after I had her, that was when I started to become a volunteer for Share the Dignity.
Fabulous. And so then let's go back to the point where you couldn't afford period products. What was happening in your life?
So I'd started doing a traineeship with a commercial building company, I suppose, and I had just moved into a rental place, and the people that were meant to be living with me had actually backed out at the last minute, and I was only earning $440 a week, and I was paying $330 a week in rent.
Whoa. I
still had to run a car, put petrol, pay insurance, all that kind of stuff. And still feed myself. And for 6 to 9 months, I pretty much lived on rice. And it's amazing what you can actually do with rice and some sort of chicken tonight sauce, or, when you have to choose between feeding yourself and your personal hygiene and all that other kind of stuff, like, what do you think is going to, and when you think about it now, with the way the cost of living crisis is, like, it's real.
It's a reality for many people, right?
And I think about it all the time, and I'm in a much luckier, privileged position now that I have a job. I have turned a corner when it's come to life and being able to afford that dignity.
How old were you at that stage?
So yeah, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
At that point. I was in a significant amount of debt. And you know, I've always had a very loving and supportive family. Like, I told my mum about this recently and she felt like she'd failed me. And I said, no, you haven't failed me. You've made me into a very proud person, I suppose. And the proud person in me, I didn't want to admit defeat at the time. You know, I was stealing toilet paper from work, and you know, you just go through life and you just don't think that you're ever going to have to be in a position like that.
You were making makeshift pads with your toilet paper?
Yeah. I was always a tampons user, but when it came down to crunch time, that's what I was using. And
do you remember how it made you feel?
It made me feel the lowest of lows. You know, I was made to feel like I wasn't important, I suppose. I had to go back to work in pubs. And
what were you earning when you were working in the pub compared to your traineeship?
Three times an hour.
Yeah. Which is why when we look at the Bloody Big Survey, we look at the results for those that are at TAFE and universities and higher education. It should be mandatory to provide period products for them because they're working to be better at what they can be in the world. We've got nurses telling us that they're doing placements in hospitals and they can't afford period products and they can't get period products at hospital or at the university and they're going without. So it's just simply not good enough.
Yeah.
So when you went back to the pub working and getting 3 times the amount of money that you were on, do you remember buying that first packet of tampons and what did that feel like?
I remember going to the shops and buying a packet of tampons and a block of chocolate. They go hand in hand together. But yeah, I do remember that. I remember thinking, wow, I can afford to not be stealing toilet paper anymore. I could afford to buy toilet paper and I could afford to buy tampons and little luxuries in life.
I wonder if you could bottle that up, what would that feel like? It'd be like winning the lotto for somebody else, right? Or is it just that because it was gone for such a short period of time, was it just, oh, well, I went through that, move on?
You never forget where you came from and you remember those things and that makes you really appreciate what you've got now. And it makes you want to keep going. That's what our bags and that do for those people. It makes them want to keep going. After I had my daughter, I had my period every day for 1.5 years. And I suffered from severe, what I now know was pain associated with my endometriosis, which was flared up after all the hormones of having a baby and being pregnant and all that kind of stuff.
It's a painful chronic disease that can lead to infertility in over 1/3 of patients. Endometriosis.
I sometimes had to get up to my waking child every couple of hours and I could hardly walk because the pain that I would get in my legs from that I now know endometriosis was really, really bad. I tried going back on the pill that I'd originally taken before I got pregnant. We tried an implant. I tried all sorts of stuff and it just wasn't working for me. And then I had all the ultrasounds done and they worked out that, yes, you've got endometriosis. They removed it and I got the Mirena and it's honestly been a game changer. So since then, I haven't had to use my stash of tampons.
Right. The Mirena was a game changer for me.
Absolutely.
Until it wasn't when I had ovaries, cyst bursts and things like that. So it didn't fix that part of my issues, but absolute game changer. And my daughter, who is 25 with very bad endometriosis, has also just had a Mirena put in. And so now she doesn't have 2 days off work every month because of her periods, right?
Yep.
The condition, which affects 1 in 9 Australian women, can lead to ongoing pain and fertility issues. It occurs when tissue similar to the lining of the uterus is found in nearby organs.
I think with a lot of things in life, like when you have some sort of trauma response to it, you put it away and until something like unlocks the key, I suppose, and you're taken back, like, you know, maybe a certain smell sometimes might bring back some sort of trauma response from when you were younger. And when I filled out the Big Bloody Survey, I can't remember specifically what it was, but there was something about tell us a story about something, and I filled it out and it just spewed out of me. And I wrote down my story and I cried while I wrote it out. And then I sent it to my now friend, who I also volunteer with, who is our team leader in South Australia for Share the Dignity. And she said to me, that takes a lot of courage to be that honest and to write those kinds of things. And I said, you share those kinds of things and how you feel, because even if you can just help one person to hear that it gets better, then it's worth it, because it does get better.
Yeah, and I hope that Share the Dignity is here to get you back, right? To make sure that you've got access to the very basic of essentials.
Yes.
Why did you choose to volunteer with Share the Dignity?
So originally, I think it was about maybe in 2020 or 2021, I was walking into the supermarket one day. There was a chemist there that had one of the pink boxes out the front. And I love pink, so I stood there and I was having a look and I was reading the information that it had on it. I thought that it was an absolute wonderful, wonderful initiative. So I walked straight back into Coles, even though I had my trolley with all my stuff.
God bless you. Not many people would do that.
I went back into Coles and I bought some boxes of tampons, because that's what I used.
Yeah.
And I put them in the box because I knew what it felt like to not be able to afford to buy them. And I did get emotional when I put them in there, and I thought, even one box, like, you know, I think I bought like 6 boxes or 5 or something, that could help 5 different people to not feel the way that I felt. After I had my daughter, I was looking for things to do, and I thought, well, why not? I've been donating to you guys, and I'd made bags up for It's in the Bag, and I thought I'll put down to be a volunteer. And then when I got contacted by the engagement lead at the time, they made me feel so special, and yeah, now they're our team leader.
Right.
So props to Bridie, because she and we're great friends now.
Oh, that's fabulous. I'd love to hear that. And so what is your favourite bit about volunteering?
Well, I'll never forget the first year when I did It's in the Bag. I went through sorting, because we collect all the bags and then we take them home and we sort them out before we go and deliver them to the charities. Going through these bags and just seeing the amount of effort and detail that people put into filling these bags with things. And I remember the very first note, I took a photo of it, that was written in one of these bags, and it honestly restored my faith in humanity. It made me proud, and it made me realise that that's why we do what we do. And I still look back at that now, and I love those handwritten notes. If I could say to people, when you do make those bags, if you put some sort of heartfelt written note in there, that means everything to the people that would receive it, and also to us volunteers when we go through, because we check the bags to make sure that they're good, that, you know, we read them as well to make sure that they're all good. And yeah, a few tears. Like, you know, I think more people need to have opportunities to write out letters that they can put in 2 bags, because you never know. The people that receive it, that might just be the one thing that will completely change the way that they feel.
Absolutely. I'll never forget meeting Kathy, who received a bag, and in her bag had a note, and it was on a piece of paper. It said, "You are not alone." And through all of her DV stuff, she kept it in her bra, and she just patted her bra. It said she wasn't alone. She actually felt like she wasn't alone, because somebody put together a little denim handbag that had all life's essentials in it. And when she got 2 packets of pads in that bag, she thought she had won the lotto, let alone the fact that it was the note that made the world of difference to her. So, you know, I always say, I love that you share that it's the kindness piece that you get to be part of that is your favourite bit. So, because there's so many bits to volunteering. Like for me, I love the friendships that come with volunteering.
Absolutely.
I know that in South Australia there's an amazing couple of volunteers who now go on holidays together. They go to the footy together. They like have created this beautiful friendship, and I love that.
Yes,
love it. You know, that's just an added bonus, right?
We're a good team down there.
Yeah. Are there any stories that you can share from doing any of your drop-offs or any of those that you've heard that you'd like to share?
I know from generally collecting, doing pickups, say for It's in the Bag. My daughters, we've taken part in 3 now. She loves to come, and I have photos of her with her little Bunnings trolleys, and she'll put one bag in there. And then I've also gotten her to come and deliver to the charities with me before. Just the, like, you know, how excited these charities get when you pass them whatever donations you've got, be it the It's in the Bag or be for the Dignity Drive. They're just so grateful. Like, you know, that they just think what we do is wonderful. And it is. It is a wonderful thing to give back to people.
So if I was to say to you, what's the most important thing that you think somebody should be doing when they're putting together their bag, what do you think that is?
I would absolutely say that the writing of like notes to these people, the recipients of the bags, would mean the world to those people. Like I remember the first time that I sorted through a bag and I found a note. It honestly, it made me feel emotional that somebody had gone to the effort of putting a beautiful bag together and then taking the time to write a note.
What did that note say?
So the very first one, I took a photo of it because honestly it really left an impact on me. She drew a picture and she wrote, "Just letting you know that you are a queen. I hope this bag can help you realise that you are not alone and that there will always be someone there." And then it says, "I hope you realise how special you are and that this bag can help you to feel beautiful."
Okay, you got me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like, that was my first letter that I'd ever pulled out of a bag. And honestly, it stored my faith in humanity after everything that had gone on with COVID and that personal disconnection that we all had with our family, with everything. The people that would have received that bag that year, that would have made their... Yeah, now I feel emotional.
How could you not feel special?
That would have made them feel on top of the world.
As we are trying to make them feel, right? We're trying to make somebody, when they receive that bag, to feel loved and dignified and respected and that they have a place here on this earth. And right now, they might not be shining as bright as they want to, but we want them to know that that's what we want from them.
And they're not alone.
Yeah, and they're not alone. And we got you.
Yeah.
We got you, sister. We may never meet you, but we got you. And that's the whole intention of a bag, right?
Yeah.
In your experience, how does access to menstrual products and education about menstruation play a role in improving the lives of those affected by period poverty?
We need to start from the beginning. So I think at the beginning with people with young women when they're in school, if you can start from the beginning and then teach them that it's not a taboo subject and, you know, it's nothing to be ashamed of or anything like that. And then when they get down the track, if they do happen to get to that point that they are experiencing period poverty, they're not scared to ask, like myself. Like, they are not worried about asking for help, not doing it alone. Because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a part of being a woman. That's why we're amazing. Because
it's a superpower, right?
That's right. Because, you know, anything you can do, I can do bleeding.
If someone was sitting on the fence about signing up as a volunteer, what would you want to tell them?
I would tell them that, in general, kindness costs you nothing. And if you have the time to do it, what are you waiting for? Because if you can just change one person's way of thinking, then we're the charity to help you do that. Because something so simple as a packet of tampons or pads. Like, who knew that it could change the momentum for somebody's train of thought, or, you know, change their day from being completely awful to, oh my God, I've just got my period, but that's okay because I managed to get some pads or tampons from one of our vending machines, or to get them from one of the many charities that we help out. I'm so proud to be a Share the Dignity volunteer. And, you know, I feel like not enough people know about us.
So how much time would you say that you're committing to volunteering with Share the Dignity?
Obviously, we have our busier periods.
Periods.
Yeah, pardon the pun. Our busier periods during our dignity drives in March and August. Depending on, you know, which areas you live in, depends on, you might need to, you know, depending on how many volunteers there are, you might need to do a few more pickups and stuff like that. A couple of hours a week, maybe, depending on how many different places you've got to go to. And that's in total, going and picking up, collecting, logging, and all that other kind of stuff. You might help out because somebody else can't go to their collection, and then, you know, wrap it all up at the end and go and drop it off to your charity. And, you know, you can do as little or as much as you want, kind of thing. There are all different things that we can do in the other periods that aren't, there it is again, in the other periods that aren't actually like those specific drive times. Like, you know, you got your vending machines, or, you know, we can do talks or all sorts of stuff. But then, like, you know, the fun stuff happens when it's in the bag, because there's a lot more involved in that.
How good is the smell, though, of your car when you've done the It's in the Bag pickup? I love it. Now, for me, Christmas always used to, when I used to smell a doll, you know, when a new doll has a smell, that always was my memory of Christmas. Now my memory of Christmas is It's in the Bag and all the bags in my car, and my car smelling like soaps and shampoos and conditioners. That's the smell that reminds me that Christmas is coming. So
yes.
So again, It's in the Bag is, you can sign up to one shift or 5 shifts, and
you don't even have to go to one store. You could go to multiples if...
It's the drop-off at the charities that is
absolutely.
is the bit that gets your heart, right?
Yeah.
At Christmas time, there are lots of presents for kids, but before It's in the Bag, there were never any presents for mum. And so the charities are so excited to be able to give the women that they help a gift, and for you to be able to give it to them, to give them out, is amazing. I know that I've been part of a couple of events where they've had homelessness events where they've given out bags, or been at domestic violence services. The looks on those ladies' faces are incredible. But in actual fact, the one that actually got me was where it was a small function and 10 ladies were given a bag to choose, and they were all like, no, you take the green one, that so suits you, and you take the orange one. Oh no, I just want a black one. I'll just wait and see what's left at the end. Women are so selfless, right? They especially those that don't have anything. And that's the thing that always gets me. I remember there was an amazing woman, and she still lives in my suburb, who has been experiencing homelessness for a very long time and has mental health problems. And she had been missing for a while, and I wondered where she was. And I'd been carrying 2 bags in the back of my car for her for quite some time when I would see her. And I know that that's not what we normally do, but I wanted to give her a choice of a bag. One bag was orange and one bag was black. Anyway, when I saw her at the outside of the bakery near the IGA, I said, oh, where have you been, Susie? And she said, oh, I've been in hospital for a while. And she was actually sitting there sewing her clothes because she'd lost so much weight. She was actually sewing her own clothes. And I said, I've been carrying this bag around for you. I wanted to make sure that you got a bag. Which bag would you like? She sat there for 20 minutes because she goes, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't get to make choices very often. And she just couldn't choose. She ended up choosing the orange bag, and I still see her now with her orange bag in her trolley. And
that's so nice.
The way that she felt that day, but I can tell you, it did more for me than it did for her.
Yeah, it's doing, yeah.
Sorry. And, it's that bit of kindness. And if everybody could take what that would feel like, that bag that you're putting together. I always wake up on Christmas Day and think, oh my God, I wish I could be a fly in the room. Yeah. For everybody who's waking up, getting a bag because it's got life's essentials in it, but getting it because it's hope. It's hope in a handbag. It's a hug in a handbag, and it's a way of them to realise that We need them here and we love them. We're just never going to meet you.
And to some people that put the bags together, like, it's so simple. It doesn't necessarily mean too much. But then you give it to those people and it's everything. Yeah.
Oh, you got me there.
Yeah.
It does mean everything to them.
It does. Yep.
Okay, sorry, you're going to have to cut for me. I bloody love It's in the Bag. It's like my favourite part of Share the Dignity because it's just such an easy way to be kind.
Yeah, because
You know?
kindness costs nothing.
Kindness costs nothing. Well, It's in the Bag does cost something, right?
Yeah.
But what I want you to do is to go without a cappuccino for a couple of times a week, right? To be able to afford it because the impact, like you just said, is everything for somebody else.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for helping us to share the dignity, for being a beacon of light for all of the volunteers in South Australia. We love having you on board sharing the dignity with us. What I'd love to reflect on is what would you say to that 25-year-old girl or any woman who is using wadded up toilet paper to deal with her period? What would you like to say to her?
So a couple of things. First, it'd be that it gets better. And second thing is, and this goes for everything, that you haven't come this far to only come this far. It gets better. You do what you've got to do to keep on keeping on.
Yeah. I would also say on top of that is reach out, let somebody know that that's what you're going through because there isn't a sister in this hood that wouldn't be giving you pads and tampons to be able to deal with your period.
Absolutely.
Right?
If I could have admitted it at the time, like as I said earlier, my mum's mortified. But, at the time, I was embarrassed because we live in the mentality that getting your period's embarrassing and it shouldn't be. Like, it's a part of life, But, at the time, yeah. I didn't have the guts to admit that I needed help and, yeah, so.
If you do need help with period products and you are going through that please head to our website. There is a map there that has all of our vending machines and that you are not alone. We got you. I always say your struggles make you stronger, right?
Yeah.
Not that you would choose to do them, but our struggles always make us stronger.
They make us the people that we are.
Could hand a few of them back and have them different, but that's not the case. That's not life.
We learn from them.
That struggle for women is not something that we move into the future with. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for sitting on another bloody podcast.
Oh, thank you. And I've got my pad earrings on.
Look at those pad earrings.
Yes, we need to celebrate our periods.